On Friday, Kyiv witnessed one of the most intense Russian assaults in the ongoing war. In a calculated barrage, Russia launched over 400 drones and at least 45 missiles across Ukraine, targeting the capital and 9 other regions including Lviv and Volyn, both bordering NATO member Poland. Explosions shook residential districts, fires engulfed apartment complexes, and emergency crews scrambled under relentless airstrikes. At least 3 civilians were confirmed dead, with dozens more injured. Fires burned through Kyiv's Solomyansky and Darnitsky districts as Shahid drones and ballistic missiles tore through the night. President Volodymyr Zelensky responded swiftly.
Удар по прилукам Чернігівської області сьогодні. Російські дрони убили родину українського рятувальника. Його життя присвячене порятунку інших, а Росія так з ним і багатьма іншими людьми. Були удари по Харкову, по Сумщині, Донеччині, Нікополю, по громадах Запоріжжя, по селах Херсонщини. І це буденність того, що росіяни, на жаль, можуть собі дозволити. Світ, на жаль, дозволяє їм таке. Дуже розраховуємо на сильні кроки. Це те, що зараз в дефіциті. І що може примусити навіть таких покидьків.
Zelensky's plea comes amid mounting concerns over Ukraine's air defense capabilities, which remain overstressed as Russian aerial attacks escalate. The scale and coordination of the latest assault suggest a shift in Moscow's strategy, from frontline battles to strategic bombardment of civilian and urban targets. Russia's justification? Retaliation. Just days prior, Ukrainian forces had executed a bold drone operation deep inside Russian territory, striking airbases in Siberia and the far north, damaging up to 20 military aircraft. Moscow labeled the move state terrorism and vowed to respond at a time and place of its choosing. That time evidently was now. The Kremlin's spokesperson Dmitry Peskov called the conflict existential for Russia. He defended the barrage, arguing it was a necessary act to protect Russia's future, and accused Western powers of inflaming the war through their support of Kyiv. Meanwhile, in Washington, US President Donald Trump revealed he spoke directly with Vladimir Putin just 48 hours before the strikes. He urged restraint but acknowledged the Russian leader was resolute in launching a counteroffensive.
I see the moment where it's not going to stop, and I'm sure you're going to do the same thing, will be very, very, very tough. And it could be on both countries, to be honest. You know, it takes two to tango. But we're going to be very tough. Whether it's Russia or anybody else, we're going to be very tough. That's a bloodbath that's going on over there. And when I see the moment where I say, well, they're going to just keep fighting. You know, I gave the analogy yesterday when I spoke to President Putin. I had a 2-hour and 15-minute call with him. Sometimes, and this is me speaking maybe in a negative sense, but sometimes you see two young children fighting like crazy. They hate each other and they're fighting in a park. And you try and pull them apart. They don't want to be pulled. Sometimes you're better off letting them fight for a while and then pulling them apart. And I gave that analogy to Putin yesterday. I said, President, maybe you're going to have to keep fighting and suffering a lot because both sides are suffering before you pull them apart, before they're able to be pulled apart. But it's a pretty known analogy. You have two kids, they fight. Sometimes you let them fight for a little while. You see it in hockey, you see it in sports. The referees let them go for a couple of seconds, let them go for a little while before you pull them apart.
In the wake of the bombardment, the US Embassy in Ukraine issued an urgent warning, advising American citizens to remain sheltered and brace for further strikes. Inside Ukraine, the mood is one of both resilience and fatigue. Over 3 years into the war, more than 10 million people have been displaced. Cities across the east lie in ruins, and Russia controls nearly 1/5 of Ukrainian territory. Despite ongoing peace talks, President Putin has refused any ceasefire unless Ukraine meets a set of uncompromising demands, including troop withdrawals from occupied territories and a NATO membership ban. Kyiv, backed by the West, rejects those terms outright. As Ukraine's infrastructure burns and civilians scramble for safety, the calls for decisive international action are growing louder. Zelensky's message is clear. Time is running out and every moment of delay means more lives lost. The question now stands, will global powers step up or will they continue watching as history unfolds in fire and blood? This is not just about Ukraine. It's about the future of international order and whether the world can stand firm in the face of unchecked aggression.